Hey, what's going on, guys? We got a special guest here today. We have Tyler Wynn. He's a college dropout to the president of Ledgers, which is part of Loyalty Brands. Tyler, we're so excited to have you on the #Clockedin podcast today. What's the biggest challenge that you've ever faced?
Um, that's a loaded question. I think if I had to pinpoint the kind of the crucible and my hardest challenge was probably about a decade ago at this point. So I was playing college football. Um, was like a normal day. I played two sports in college.
Oh, wow.
So I was playing outside linebacker at the time. Trained my whole life. This is all I wanted to do. I just wanted to do two things my whole life. Is I wanted to play football in college, and then I wanted to go in the military. So my whole goal was to do that. So all this changed in this one moment. So I was rushing the quarterback, and then he comes. The offensive lineman comes in and cuts me. It happens all the time. In my mind, I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll just fall over the guy and make the sack. It's fine. Well, instead of like normal, it happens every time. When he cut me, he held my leg down, and when he held my leg down, I went forward, but my leg stayed there. So basically, I ended up blowing out my entire knee. I had to go to got to get the ambulance. Had to take me to the hospital, and at that moment, it was I remember it like it was yesterday. It's like my whole like a shock like went in my mind, and it was like my whole outside of the leg, like I couldn't feel my leg. So they took me to the hospital, and to come to find out, I blew out my entire knee. I even lost like the nerves in my foot, so I couldn't even move my leg at all. So I would say the hardest challenge was coming back from that. So coming back from like, okay, my dreams are completely crushed. My everything I've wanted to do my entire life is instantly done. Now what? I think even learning how to walk again wasn't the hardest part. I think it was really trying to vision in my mind, like that was my why. Like that was my why my entire life. And all of a sudden, that's gone. So now what? Like everything I wanted to do required this, but now I obviously like I do CrossFit all the time. I can do all that stuff, but I can't do that anymore. So I think that
Yeah.
was probably the biggest challenge of figuring out who I was because everything just got taken. And
Wow.
I know that was kind of loaded at the question, but
Well, I appreciate you sharing that just because the audience sitting there, everyone's had a moment in their life where they've been, now what? And it could be a death in their family, it could be a change of life, it could be firing from a job, and it's this traumatic moment where you sit there and you go, I don't know what I'm doing next. And we're gonna go and unpack more of Tyler's story, but we're gonna learn that it's okay. And this might have been a big blessing for him. You know what I mean? And we start to work through that. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
yeah. And a little bit like those couple years after that, I honestly had no idea who I was, didn't know what I wanted to do. I tried working a normal job, worked in the nuclear field for a while, and it wasn't it wasn't until after I was engaged and I was actually preparing to go to Vegas for my bachelor party, and I was learning to count cards. That's all I wanted to do in Vegas. I wanted to learn to count cards so I can just have fun in Vegas.
Yeah.
And my cousin actually gave me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and me after reading that book completely changed my perspective. I was like, wow, like I hated school. I loved learning, but hated school. But me learning, reading that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, really opened my eyes of like how everything works, like
Yeah.
business in general. And then I ended up falling in love with business, and then kind of
And
everything happened from there.
what do you think the biggest difference was there between you said I didn't love school, but I did love learning. And I think a lot of people have a real difficulty with this, where we're if we're not really good at school, then we're just not learners. And I think the system kind of threw us off with that. But what do you mean by that?
So I'm glad you talked about this. Like I can go back to school tomorrow, but the thing I hate about college is forcing myself to learn something that is completely useless.
Yeah.
So for me going back and learning science, me doing all this stuff, like I don't need to know that. Like make it practical. And like I used to, once I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I read a book a month, and I used to hate
Whoa.
reading. I used to read everything I knew about business and psychology. I would read those books one a month. I would read them all, just because I was just like almost honestly obsessed at that point. Just wanted to learn uh, about the game of business.
Yeah. It's so important because a lot of us we sit there and we think everything's black and white, but there's so much gray. And we just start to realize that, hey, it's okay to like reading. That doesn't mean that you're a nerd or anything. It's actually very encouraged because there's so many of these frames that we sit in. And in all honesty, you know it, life breaks every single one of the frames we ever set for ourselves. And we start to create these new identities of who we want to be. So as you start going through that new journey. What did the Rich Dad Poor Dad book really help you with? And then how did you start applying it to your life?
Okay, so me and my wife just bought a house. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and my wife loves the show Fixer Uppers.
Yeah,
So she wanted to do a whole house renovations, etc. And I was working construction at the time, and I was like, "This is horrible." So I have to work work all day, come home, pretty much work again. And once I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I was like, oh, I can turn taking my wife's passion and what she wants to do together as a business, and that's kind of how we got into real estate.
yeah.
So we bought that house. We house hacked it, as the real estate people would say. Used that money to buy another house.
And what is house hacking? What does that mean
So
for the
house
listener?
hacking is basically exactly what it sounds like. It's basically you're buying a house to you live in there for a couple of years, and you either turn it as a rental, or if you like live and flip kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's just a way to kind of beat the system
And
where
what's
you
the advantage to that?
is interest rates technically. So like if you buy a uh, let's say if you wanted to buy an investment property, your down payment range between 15% down to 25% down. Well,
Yeah.
if it's your first, if you're a first time home buyer, you can, if you're a veteran, it could be 0%. A first time home buyer could be as low as 3%. So technically, you can buy three houses for the price of one.
Less
It's
than one.
house
Yeah.
hacking compared to if you buy it as a normal rental.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
a way to kind of maximize the cash. And at that point, we were about 50 something $1,000 in debt, and we kind of built who we were based off us reading that book and real estate.
That's amazing. And it's just so encouraging that you can realize that one book, one idea. And the cool thing about a book is that it forces you to stop talking. So you're sitting there and you're listening to the ideas. And the thing that's always helped me with books, and I'm just sharing this for the audience to realize that I always thought about it of, hey, right now me and Tyler are having a conversation. If I read Elon Musk's biography by Elon Musk, then that means me and Elon are having a conversation, but he's just speaking to me. And that's been a frame of reference that helped me a lot be like, oh, books are interesting. I would like to talk to Robert Kiyosaki. I would like to talk to Tony Robbins. I would like to talk to these different people because otherwise it can be so challenging. You, we think we're doing something so unique. Meanwhile, millions of people have done what we've done. And it's like, how do we just expedite our lives to get to that best point?
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I've learned is you can learn something from everyone. Like it doesn't matter if like you're Elon Musk or my 4 year old. You can always learn something about in any situation from anyone. And one thing I think reading the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I recommend anyone to read that book. That other than Rich Dad Poor Dad, that has kind of changed my perspective on everything. And it shows that everyone is our superior in something. Like you're superior to me in something,
Yeah.
and vice versa. So I don't ever think, okay, I'm better than this person. I'm better than this person because that person is always better than me at something.
Yes. And
So there's always something you can learn.
a great example of that is we went skiing uh, in 2020, and my wife grew up in Florida, so she hadn't even seen snow until like earlier that year. So we took her to a ski slope. It wasn't like a huge ski one, but we went skiing, and she got a lesson and everything, and she was feeling comfortable. And then the girl was like, "Oh, we'll take you on the big hill." And as she's going up the big hill, which isn't even that big for someone like these West Coast or Europe skiing, like it was East Coast skiing. It's not, the mountains aren't that big, but she goes down and she's like, she's falling every 3 feet, and she would look up and see a 4-year-old just guiding, and she's like, "Why am I so bad at this?" And it's because she's only had one rep. That 4-year old probably lives 5 minutes from the mountain, probably skis 30 times a year, and the parents are just like, go, go, until you figure it out. And you start to realize here that how many times do we open ourselves to learning new things? How many times do we actually try because we don't like being a beginner? So, where have you been a beginner recently in your life? Because I always think finding a way to be a beginner is so helpful for us to continue to grow and on our journeys.
Where have I become a beginner? I would say right now is franchising. Like so I know accounting, I know real estate really well. I do small businesses, but I didn't know franchising. And kind of fast forward through a little bit about my journey. I met a guy named John Hewitt, founded Liberty Tax, founded Jackson Hewitt, billion-dollar brands. And one of the big things I took away from sports is you need a coach. Like I
Yes.
felt like one of the main reasons I wanted to be a part of especially loyalty brands is like no matter how hard, like I felt like I maxed out to what I can do by myself. And
Yes.
having like even like a Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, you need that coach, that mentor that you can learn from, watch their paths, and to kind of propel you faster. Like reading books is great. I've learned a lot, I've learned so much, but watching someone do it real time through their real experiences and some of the questions that you can't learn from reading a book, you can ask like face to face or even watch firsthand, I think is incredibly valuable.
Well, there's a massive lesson of having mentors. And like you're saying here is like you want them to be on your upside. So like there's times in your life where you pay for a mentor, where maybe some people go, I'm going to pay 5 grand for this guy or 10 grand, or I'm going to give him equity or whatever it may be. But then there's times where it's, hey, how do we partner up in this and we can work together because they're incentivized to watch you win. So when you do this, it's such a fast pass for life. You know what I mean? And this same concept of business can apply to skiing as we just discussed. It can apply to all aspects of your life, and it's just such an accelerant. So it's really important to think about this. Where in your life are you having these mentors? And it might be a business mentor or a spiritual mentor or a physical fitness mentor. You want to get around these right people.
Yeah, I agree. Same process in sports, same part process in skiing, same process in business. The the path of being great in everything or great in one thing is the same path of being great at everything. So from like if you wanted to be exceptional at baseball, it's the same steps as it is to being great in business. Is I even had to tell my got my daughter to say when I was like, hey, how do you get better? And she's like, oh, practice a little bit every day. It's just that little bit getting a little bit better every single day. And also finding mentors about people that what you want to do. If that's something you want to do, watch them, learn from them. That's another way from even from sports with coaches, etc.
So
Finding a
you
way to
think
learn from them.
so you think that it all applies, like you getting better at football apply to you getting better at business and franchising and all of these different things. So it's more of the soft skills then.
Oh, I completely agree. I believe that, let's say for baseball, let's say
Okay.
baseball, for instance, you have to hit on the tee. Very, very boring, but you do it over and over and over again. Thousands of reps, thousands of reps, thousands of reps just to get a little better. It's the
Yeah.
same aspect in business. The more, let's say if I'm going to go um, do analyze a real estate deal,
Yeah.
how I analyze one deal, but compared to my hundred deal or my thousand deal is going to be way different. Like I've learned so much through that process.
And yeah, I what that does is that gives you an actual range of how much time you're actually going to spend on this. So what I mean by that is when you sit there and go into something and you might be, hey, after if I don't do this in 4 months, then I'm not doing this. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, that's cool. Like, but how many swings on the tee did you do in 4 months? You might have only done three sales calls, and you're like, well, that wasn't a lot of effort, but it felt like I was busy work. You know what I mean? That's very different than the guy who's doing 100 phone calls every single day or swinging on the tee for 2 hours a day. Like the more reps we get for a longer period of time and realizing that we're not going to give up until this thing works.
Yeah.
And or maybe we'll go, hey, we're going to commit 5, 10 years to this. It makes a huge difference.
I think one of the key things that I've learned in sports and even so far in business is most people they fall in love with the result. Oh, I'll be happy once I hit this. But
Yeah.
that's the issue is you got to fall in love with the process. Every single day, the pain and suffering of getting it up every day, going to the gym, um, training, learning, you have to fall in love with the process. And that is part of the key. Because until you love what you do, you love that process, and that becomes what you love, I don't think you ever, in my opinion, reach that result. Got to
I
fall in love with the process.
Yeah, because it's really hard. So then what do you think about like people chasing the money? Is that a good mentality or is it not?
Well, let's say, hey, I want to be a millionaire. Let's
Yeah,
say you reach it, then what?
I
But
should be happy.
yeah, you're happy once you
I'm
become a
gonna be
millionaire.
unhappy until this moment. I'm gonna be unhappy until this moment.
Yeah.
It's not healthy.
So like almost like creating like John Hewitt says all the time, hairy audacious goals. It's like
Yeah.
the process they make it so almost so far fetched that you have to fall in love with the process.
Yeah. And when you start to realize that, then you start to realize that you're on the right path. And it's not so much the body that you're looking for, but it's going to the gym and putting in the work. And I think that makes a big difference. So for you, Tyler, what was the biggest thing you realized about small businesses having a struggle? Because I know we talked about it and we talked about it in the pre-call a little bit where you think there's a one area of business where most business owners just miss. What is that area?
So a little bit of backstory. So kind of shared a little bit of me starting in the real estate. Started investing in real estate, buying a bunch of long-term rentals, Airbnbs, midterm rentals, etc. Well, once the real estate market started to cool off and you didn't really see the best like cash flow in the real estate market, I was like, okay, I'm gonna switch to small business acquisitions, etc. Um, and one thing I learned, even with my when I became a real estate agent to help myself buying deals, is there's so much joy into really helping people. Like the joy of, and even um, if you're, I don't know if you're biblical, but Jesus came down to earth to basically serve us, to provide for us. His whole everything in the Bible. So if God came down to earth to serve us, and all he did was serve his entire time on earth. Maybe that's part of the true joy of happiness is just helping and serving people. So getting back into your question, once I wanted to start acquiring businesses. And I acquired one business and I realized there's such a need on most of these small business owners don't have time to maybe they don't know the numbers, they don't know their finances, and they just know what they're best at. And maybe that's their business. Maybe they know coffee, they know operations, but they need help. They need like some kind of financial guidance, some kind of guide to really helping them achieve that. So, because I bought a small business a couple of years ago, and I was struggling, and once I acquired it, we did a bunch of accounting stuff. We kind of fixed the books. They've doubled in revenue by just simply
Oh
knowing their
wow.
numbers. Just
Oh
simply
wow.
like basic tools that for me, like I love
But
numbers. I love finance. Like that's what I love. I thought that was um,
common.
common, but a lot it's hard to for business owners to be great at everything. So
I'm
there's such a need in the market for affordable more or less finance,
Yeah.
accounting, bookkeeping, etc.
100%. I'm laughing because I sat there and as you started to say it, I realized pretty quickly that all these business owners, a majority of them, let's go with the Americans, they're still in the prop in still they're still in the population of Americans And if you look at the population of Americans, like 50% carry credit card debt. So
Yeah.
like you start to realize like, hey, if I'm going to carry credit card debt in my personal life, am I going to carry it in my business life? Most likely. Like most people carry these certain things. And I'm not saying credit card debt's it, but I'm just saying if you don't know your own personal finances, then you might not be taking inventory of the 25 services you signed up for and they're all reoccurring and you start to realize, wait, I don't need three of these or I don't need five of these or what am I doing? And you
Yeah.
start to realize they got so much going on.
Yeah, just from like small business, you were talking about the data on Americans. I think 75% of all small businesses fail within like the first 10 years. And
Wow.
number one reason of that is just financial mismanagement. They don't know like their numbers, where to put it, how to invest it, etc. So there's such a need in the market. And when I met John Hewitt, I learned about his brands. I saw it was almost like a calling of this is an opportunity to really help all the small businesses and
So what
and
does
with
Ledgers
that
exactly
business.
do?
So we're a tech driven, 100% cloud based accounting franchise, and we specialize in tax, bookkeeping, payroll, and like advisory services. Kind of being that guide for small businesses, giving them a convenient, efficient, and affordable way to for them to grow their business from a
Yeah.
financial perspective. Kind of giving them those tools and resources so that they can go out and live their dream, whatever that
Yeah.
may be. So
So
that
giving
is,
them a framework of what's the actual important things in the business itself.
yeah. So it's like we're basically trying to be your financial department. If that's
Yes.
we're trying to be your financial department so that you can focus in on just growing your business.
Yeah. Which is
And
super important.
one of the main reasons you talked about families and finances is even from my own personal backstory, my family always argued about money. My only childhood memories I really remember is my parents arguing about money. So so that kind of instilled in me at a young age is like, oh, I don't want to be that. I
Yeah.
need to learn everything I need to know about finances, so I don't do that. And um that really kind of emphasized why I wanted to be a part of Ledgers is I want to help families, help people like not just the families, but their kids, so their kids don't see that as I saw that. And my
You
parents
know,
are great people. There's nothing against them. It's just that's just a very common thing in
well, the
front of
biggest
America.
misconception I have is and about financial literacy that I kind of hold is like we work so hard on making the money. Very few people sit there and go, where are we going to allocate it? How are we going to think about this? What's the best way we can split this up? What's the best way we can think about these things? And I think these financial literacy tips, like it's like the back end, it's the front end of like, hey, we're in sales, or hey, we work a job, or hey, we have this. You have money coming in. There's very few people who take inventory of their own back end. And it
Yeah,
becomes a stress. And it's like, if you make one different decision, you could retire 10 years earlier. Like,
yeah.
the back end is more important than the front end. And people don't, I think that's such a miss when they don't understand that.
And everyone should run their, and this is my opinion, everyone should run their family business, their personal finance like a business. So
Yes.
for instance, let's say if you make um, let's say $1,000 and you're spending $2,000. Well, your net cash flow is negative 1,000. So one of the things that me and my wife do is we create everything flows into one account just like a business, but we give ourselves allowances. So every 2 weeks, she gets money toward her allowances, and I give money to my allowance. And what this does is kind of limits a lot of the issues that maybe my parents had. Like let's say that I want to go out with the guys and go to eat. I can use my allowance to do that. And then she can use her allowance to do anything for the girls. So that way we're still growing the family and each one of us can save for our own personal um, expenses. So that's,
Yeah. So I have a lot of thoughts about it. I think there's a lot of different ways to look at this, but it is very important for everyone to have shared continuity, especially when you get married, and then having your own individual accounts, but also working towards your goals together. Like, My wife, like, we own the place we're at now, but she wants to get another place. So I'm like, okay, if we're gonna buy another place, is that just gonna be like we're gonna save the money and suddenly we're just gonna use the money to buy the house? I was like, no, why don't we just put a certain amount of money every single month towards that goal? You know what I mean? It's just in a savings account. Like, it's not a big deal, but you can always move the money. But the whole point being is like the more we feel comfortable talking about finances and more we start having these conversations, I think it's super empowering for everybody listening to realize, hey, wait, maybe I'm not having enough discussions with my family and seeing, are we positive every month or are we negative? Like, you know what I mean? It's constant where it's start off with that. Like, are you keeping more than you make? Like, or whatever it is, or you're spending less than you make. And it's just like, okay, that's a good start. Like, and then you start thinking, what's my savings rate? Okay, if you're around 20%, you're doing pretty well. Like, but
Yeah.
these are things most people are like, saving rate, what's a savings rate? And you start to realize that it just setting up these things isn't too difficult. It's just the one time thing, and it's the habits of keeping them to what they are. That's what I think, at least.
I think just being, I think maybe organized. Even my time when I was a real estate agent for a while, they would all have everything in one account, and they would have no idea where everything was allocated. So even just creating separate accounts for, maybe if you're saving for like a home fund that you're going to go buy a house, or let's say vacation for the family, we're going to
Yeah.
put X amount of money to this account
I
every
have like four or five
bi-weekly.
buckets. I have four or
Exactly.
five. It might be too much, but it makes me feel better because then I can just pull from it if I overspend or if I underspend or if I'm ready to spend on that activity. Because it's just helpful. Like it really is, especially when you start seeing the compounding where you don't have to do anything because the money flows in. They take out the percentages based off that, and you just the party keeps rolling. It's super important.
I think everyone, even if they don't own a business, is in a business. Your personal finances and everything, like you and your wife or you yourself is working a job. That money should operate just like a business. Where are you investing that money? Are you saving for X expenses or X account, or let's say allowances you're technically paying yourself a salary? Is if everyone actually just ran their personal finances like a business, I think would help a lot of families out.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it becomes this. It can be very intimidating if people don't want to open the accounts and they don't really know what's going on and they don't want to look. But I think the biggest clarity, like one of the biggest tips for me, has been actually looking every single day. Why? Because you can see the flow of money. So you start to see where your car insurance gets pulled out. You start to see where your house pulls out. You start to see all these bills, and you're like, oh, you're not looking at it and going, I don't have any money. You're like, I know this is coming, so I can prepare. I know that I have taxes, so I can prepare. And it's all these different things that allow us to get a real proper headspace. Because once your financials are kind of set up, the stress level drops drastically.
Yeah, I agree. So how do you think that would affect like families going forward with how AI's progression? What's your thoughts on that?
What do you mean by that?
Just like how the world's changing with AI. I have my own perception of how AI is gonna affect things now and next couple of years.
Yeah, I think I think it's got a few different options. I think people are going to start to, I think it's going to eliminate a lot of the lower level tasks. So, what I mean by that is right now, people don't even go, some people don't go food shopping. They just use Instacart. That's going to start, hey, the food store, I'm missing my ketchup. It's going to start placing orders for them. It's going to start doing a lot, but you have to be more on your finances for that. I think AI is also going to stop people from being actively engaged in a lot of society because it's going to force us into this thinking time. Or if we're not producers, we're consumers. So then it's going to be more TV time where more people are just doing that. What do you think about this?
I think AI, especially for what I do with accounting for small businesses, is going to really help us.
Oh,
And the
absolutely.
reason I say it, I think it's going to kind of bring the price down of accounting.
Yeah.
So, kind of the big firms where everything costs really expensive to get really good help, I think it's going to be able to bring that down to an affordable level for small businesses. Everyone is under the impression they think AI is going to wipe out accounting firms. I do not think so. because you always be able to have to audit that AI. And even um, how we're finding like AI now, you can ask the questions, but you still need someone, a person, etc., that can make sure that it's doing it's right, audit it, um, as well as help execute it is also. So,
Yeah.
so kind of like even how I think it'll allow us to leverage more. So let's say like from one bookkeeper, they can manage 20 accounts. I think with AI, and we're going to be able to do maybe 200 to 300 per person. It'll be able
Yeah.
to leverage, but it'll never take away
It's
the
already being outsourced anyway. Like, I have an accountant, and he was like, I had the preppers do the prepping, and he was already outsourcing the work. I'm like, you're the accountant. Like, why didn't you do the prep? And he's like, no, I would do the review. Like, oh, that's how it's gonna go, where you're gonna have AI be that first level, and then
yes,
everyone's gonna have to do more of a manager role, which I think
yeah.
is a different skill set in its own entirely as well. Have you
Yeah, I
noticed
agree.
that?
I agree and disagree. I think it's going to help us drive a lot of the costs down, but also kind of give small businesses the kind of resources available, like from like we'll be benchmarking different industries with AI. You'll be able to see, hey, what works in certain industries,
Yes.
and be able to give the advice to that small businesses that, hey, this is the path to kind of grow your business. I think that from a financial insight, it's going to really help as well.
You're gonna have a lot more
Resources.
resources and information, but it's can you curate and get the correct answers that you're looking for or the best answers?
Exactly. And one of the big issues with AI right now is if you ask AI a question, you're going to get a different answer every time.
Yeah.
So, and kind of like even what we do, have to create those walls with AI. So it still gives you the same exact information, the right answer every single time. That's going to be a kind of a struggle with AI and kind of what we're working on later.
But that's what I would say industry experts are getting at. Like, once you can set up the prompts and set up the GBTs where they're just focused on your information, I think it makes a big difference. Um, Yeah, I think it will make it's kind of the guardrails, like you said, for what you want to accomplish. So for you, Tyler, we have five pillars at Edwards Consulting. It's mental health, physical health, community service, philanthropy, spirituality, and relationships. And I'm just curious where you're at today on each of them, and maybe a thing or two on why you're at that point or what helps you in those different areas. So for mental health, on like a 1 to 10, where do you think you're at?
Excellent.
I mean,
And so
even if you don't
I
agree.
agree.
Yeah.
My opinion for myself, I feel like maybe just because I my dreams kind of got crushed years ago. I feel like you just have to choose to be happy, choose to be okay. Um, Maybe that's just kind of where I made my opinion for where I
So,
stand. I'm just different a
so
little bit.
you're saying that mental health is not, you're more of a, I'm deciding on this, is what you're saying.
I don't know. I think
It's,
I'm talking for myself. I think everyone, it's hard. Like even back to the how to win
no, no,
friends
no.
and
We're not
influence
talking in
people.
general. No, but it's really important that we're not talking in generals. We're just talking about you. And the reason I do this is just because this is some of the stuff I do with the coaching, and it helps so many people when they listen and they're like, "Oh, wait, you're telling me I can choose to be happy or sad? I didn't realize that." Because the way I do it is this, this, and this. You know what I mean? Most people aren't even intentional about it. So for you to be intentional and be like, "I'm choosing this," is huge. You know what I mean? Most people don't do that.
Yeah. So for me, um, I think it's just a choice. And the reason and one of the things I would challenge, say if you're having a bad day, go out and try to improve someone else's life.
Yeah,
Like I think so. A lot of things that I get joy about is just helping
yeah,
people. Like what makes me happy, I would say improving my daughter's life, improving others' life from other small businesses. That's where I got the most joy I've ever had in my entire life is just from helping people. And I think that is part of what happiness is, and helping other people is just helping others. I think we're
absolutely.
naturally selfish, even when you go back to how to win friends and influence people. In the book, it talks about if I show you a picture of 50 people who's the first person you're gonna see?
Yourself.
Yourself. And that is our natural instinct. So our natural instincts is all about me. So I always try to make it all about everyone else. And
I love it.
that's the true happiness. When you're more, it's hard to really focus in on what I need when you're really focused on just helping other people. And one of our mission statement is having fun and improving lives. And I think there's a lot of fun in helping improve others' lives.
Absolutely. And one of the big things for me that you brought up was bad day versus good day. And I think a lot of people don't have a definition of this. So I went to a Tony Robbins seminar and it was a few years ago, but he had such a great definition for this. So, like, do you have a definition for a bad day?
What was his definition?
So, his definition of a bad day, because you kind of work through the activity, and basically what you say is um, the definition of a bad day for him was when someone close to him passes away. So it's very
Yeah.
infrequent, and I actually carried that a lot because I would hate when I had a roommate years ago, and they would come home and they're like, "I had a bad day." Why? Because some deal fell through. I was like, so stupid. I was like, that's so lame. Like that's definitely not a bad day. And then you start to think about the good day concept. So it's like, what's a good day? And everyone's sitting there and they're like, I don't know, like if everything goes my way, when has everything ever gone your way? And it's like never. So then it's like, what's a good day? And you start to realize just waking up, being a being able to
Yeah.
play this game again. And once I did those two definitions, it was so helpful for me mentally. And like you said, it's all a choice. So why not choose the better?
Yeah, and one thing I do, same thing with business deals, anything I can't help it, is I run the worst possible scenario I can possibly think of through my head. And as long as if I'm okay with that, I know I'm okay. Like,
I
no
like
matter what deal it is, no matter what scenario, I run the worst possible scenario, all the worst possible scenarios. And if I know I'll be okay with that,
yeah,
I'll be good.
I like that. I like that. And then now physical health on a 1 to 10, or what are some things you do for your physical health? Obviously, you went through the injury where you almost didn't walk. Now you're doing CrossFit. Like, where do you think about, how do you think about your physical health?
Uh, Well, I don't think I'll ever be what I was because obviously I'll never be able to run as fast as I was. But I mean, I thought I wasn't going to be able to ever run again, and I run a mile a day. So I'm completely grateful for that.
Yeah.
That's more than I thought I was good. Like I had to wear a for a couple years I had to wear like a boot on my foot that kept my foot up because my foot would drop because the nerves in my legs didn't work.
Oh, wow.
So me being able to just get up and run, me going to work out, I mean. I'm good after that.
I
Because
love,
I used to hate running so much. And once I was able to do it again, I was like, I gonna never say I hate running anymore. Just because obviously I didn't think I was gonna do that, be able to do it again.
wow. So, Tyler, the thing I'm really grabbing from you is that you're a lot of frameworks. You have a great viewpoint on the world where it's a lot of people go physical health. I don't want to do that. That sucks. And they might be overweight, struggling, don't want to go to the gym. It's miserable, blah, blah, blah. But you start to realize you have the opportunity to do it. So you might as well take advantage of it. You only have one life. So you might as well take advantage of these opportunities. So I think that's awesome.
Now I think physical health plays a big factor in a lot of everything. Like even when I was a kid, I feel like the gym was like the almost your happy place. Like
Yeah.
if you go out there, you grind, you suffer one time a day, maybe it's at the gym.
Yeah.
You choose to suffer, and the rest of the day is going to be better
Absolutely.
because you already suffered everything else. No.
Yeah, nothing's ever gonna be harder than that. I did a Muay Thai class probably a week or two ago, and we had a spar, and the guy just popped me right in the face. I got punched in the face. I don't think anything will be as hard as this, because it just, you know what I mean? You just think about it and you realize it. So, number three, community service philanthropy. How do you think about that?
Well, I think that's come about to like helping the community, helping
Of
others.
course, yeah, philanthropy, giving back, whatever it may be for you.
So
Everyone's got their own thing.
that kind of rains down our brings us to the whole, I guess my whole mission is even without ledgers is I want to reduce small business failures. I feel like everything is like a compounding effect. That's what I want to do. I feel like if I can help small, like my goal is 100,000 small businesses across the US change their lives. That's 100,000 businesses, and over half the U.S. workforce is small businesses. So how many people I change? My thing is, I feel like business is a way for me to really help people, and that's by helping improving their lives, which will in return improve their business, which improve their families, their workers, etc.
I think it's so important that you bring up the why so often because most people sit there and they think right into community service. I have to go volunteer. I have to go do this. But sometimes your community service is the work you do. And sometimes the community service is helping those around you and realizing that you have your different franchise, you have your franchisees, they have clients, they're being served. Like, and you start to see, okay, 100,000, that's a big goal, but is it achievable? Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
And one thing is, I'll only invest or be a part of a business from here on out is if I know that it will help change people's lives. So, for
Really?
instance, the first business I bought was a coffee. I partnered with a coffee company, and the reason he started the company is he was a young life pastor, and he started the company as a way to help kids who are homeless find employment from high school to college to that transition period. So he took what his ministry, which is helping kids in school, to his love for coffee. He said, "Hey, we can help these kids get off the street by giving them a job to work there and to transition into full-time uh, employment somewhere else, like as a kind of a base." So I
So
love the mission, I love the journey. That's why I wanted to be a part of that.
that's
And that,
community service.
yeah.
Yeah, that's community service in its own regard. So, how did you know that you were into this do good, be good business that I feel like it's more up and coming. It's not super popularized at this day and age, but it's getting bigger and bigger with Toms and donating pairs and doing all this good stuff. Where did you start to realize that this was like really important to you?
I mean, it just goes down. It's like, well, I mean, what's your goal? Like you said before, what's your goal? $1 million. Okay. Well, then what? And let's say $5 million. Okay, then what? Well, what's your goal? And I think the greatest companies, the greatest um, entrepreneurs, people that make the biggest impact, had something that was bigger than themselves. Like even back when Sony in Japan, they wanted people to be known for quality. Like Sony wanted to be known for quality. Or even like, I mean, obviously Amazon probably has changed and maybe hurt a little bit less, but his whole thing is he want to be obsessed with customer service. I want a company, or at least for like ledgers, myself in general, how do I make it so much bigger than me? Like that's the goal. The goal
Yeah.
is so incredibly still achievable, but it's not like a specific number. It's
Yes.
like, how do I make it as like this is the mission? Our mission is to help change small businesses' lives. That's what we wanted to do. That's like reducing the small business failures by less than half. Okay,
Yeah.
well that's something that's massive, something that we can embody that all our people can be around. Like that's our goal is to help
Yeah.
change their lives. Something that's bigger than all of us, bigger than me, bigger than you, bigger than John Hewitt, bigger than anyone is that mission, that vision of just improving their lives, helping those small businesses achieve. Because most of the small business owners, they just want to help pay for their kids go through
Yeah.
daycare, affording kids, and I mean I understand all those struggles. So it's
Yeah.
just, and that's our mission, and that's all I want to do is just to do that.
Absolutely. I think it makes a huge difference. So the fourth pillar is relationships. So this can be business relationships, this can be personal relationships. How do you think about your relationships and how do you maintain them slash water them slash keep any tips and tricks?
You know, so before I got into business, um, I had, and I think a lot of people have, like you have that same like 8 friends that you know in your entire
Yes.
life. I was like, I don't need any more friends. Like I have the
Yes.
same 8 friends I've had my entire life. don't need any friends. But coming to business, like you, like it forced me to be more outgoing, reach out to people. You kind of learn more people's story, like how, like they have the same mission, same values as you. Like, how do we create a win-win together? Like, hey,
Yes.
this is your mission, this is my mission. How do we win together? And I think there's this big philosophy. It's like, and the same thing with sports. I played team sports my whole life. Like, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go as a team. So
Yeah.
our goal is so far that I need everyone around us. We need to
Yeah.
all be like embody that to help grow.
I love that. Yeah, and where did you come up with this mission, or where did you start to think about mission? Because a lot of us have missions, but or don't have missions, and we were just like, "Wow, his mission's so good. Like, where do people get missions?" Like, you know what I mean? It's a process.
I think it was having to build myself up because like I think my dream was crushed. And only reason I wanted that dream is I wanted to do the hardest thing I thought was possible. That's all
Yeah,
I wanted to do. I was like, okay, this is extremely hard. This isn't, no one can do it. I just want to do it. And didn't really have a reason of why I wanted to do that other than that. So I think kind of figuring out who exactly I am and what exactly I want to do kind of hint on that. It's like, okay, I really just want to truly help people. And like,
and
that's
where
my,
where
go ahead.
and where do you find the like what you enjoy or what you don't enjoy? Because I know so many people. I ask them, and they might be a marketing person, and they're like, "I'm like, oh, what do you like to do?" And they're like, "I love marketing," and I'm like, "Do you really?" Like sometimes, sometimes not, but it's like, you know what I mean? It all depends on what they have with them. Where it's like, actually, what I really enjoy is going on TikTok and helping the people grow their pages and being on top of the trends or whatever it may be. That's what they really enjoy. And that might be just this little small increment. But for you, it's like, how do you know if you enjoy something?
I think you spend your time on it. It's like that's why I love finances so much. If you want to see what's important to someone, just look at their bank account, see what they spend their money on.
Yeah,
Because back to your question is like, how do you determine what someone like what they're good at, what they love? Was that kind
yeah,
of the question?
pretty much, yeah.
I think what you spend your time on. Like for instance, I love learning about business, growing, like kind of the macro things. So that's what I spend my time on. Like I can, and same thing with psychology. I love learning about people, why people do things, like, and then how do I help them? So
Yeah.
that's why I spend most of my time on. So that's what I love to do. Most people are going to spend their time on what they love to do, unless it's a
Abs-
job and they hate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the final pillar is spirituality. So you mentioned a little bit about it, but how do you think about spirituality?
Okay, so I'm a Christian, always been a Christian, and I see when when Jesus came down to earth, that was his mission. He literally came here to die for us. It was for others. I see that as that's the same mission I have. I should maybe not die for people, but you get kind of the point. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, how do I help people? My goal is to serve. And
Yeah.
in that service of helping others, even when I was a real estate agent, is where I felt true happiness. Like I
Yeah.
felt like I was making a difference. I was helping people. That's where I got happiness. I
Yeah.
think that's one of the key things maybe he was trying to teach us is like, hey, go out and help people. Go out helping people change their lives, and that will in return help change your life. And even from a business perspective, like John Hewitt has been so successful because how many lives did he change? It's all based on like how many
Thousands.
people can I impact and change their lives, and that will in return help me as well. So it's kind of like the more you give, the more you get in return. It's
Yeah.
like what they say is you'll never outgive God. Same thing.
Interesting. I like I like that. Yeah, I'm Jewish, but I ask that question because some people take spirituality and all of it a little bit differently. And my point is that there's no judgment on anybody. Everyone does their own thing, and that's cool. And whatever makes them happy or whatever fills their cup or they believe in is perfectly cool. Like, you know what I mean? Everyone's got their own stuff. But I always find it interesting how people share and what they enjoy and what values they get. So I appreciate you sharing all that. And for you, you mentioned John Hewitt a couple times. Who is John Hewitt, just in general, for the people who might not know? And then also, what lessons have you learned from him?
I think, and this is my opinion. So if I see John as like the ultimate like strategist. So he's a mathematician way back in the day. He's a master chess player, and I've learned from John is basically like to live like how do you do approach strategy. I love strategy. Like he lives in that 5 year projection. Whatever that vision is, he knows what everyone's around him, who's part of that board, who's part of that team, etc. Living so far in the present and building backwards. Like, hey, like here's the strategy. This is where I'm going to be in 5 years. Kind of from a chess perspective, you know, 7 moves down ahead of you and how do you build back to kind of build do that. That's one of the things I've learned. And almost prioritizing. So
Yeah,
let's say from like a CEO mindset, if like you get a bunch of information thrown to you all the time, people that want to do stuff, and you have to prioritize what is noise and what is not.
yes,
So let's say that if it's not part of that 5 year plan, a 5 year goal of how we can help people, how we can help change the life, it's just noise.
yeah,
So that's one of the things I really learned is how to determine what is, I guess there's a book called Signal and Noise, but based on signal and what's noise. And it's kind of how do you envision and kind of almost how do you envision from a strategy perspective? How do you think so far ahead and how do you basically build out that backwards?
yeah, yeah. I mean, the reason I'm laughing is I went to Key West last weekend and I ended up playing, went to this random like coffee shop and me and my mom, we ended up playing chess. And she was like, I didn't even remember how to play chess. And we just started playing and you start to realize that not some things are sacrifices, some things are plays, some things are there, but there's always a move until the game's over. So the key is how do you stay in the game as long as possible? And then how do you make those strategic moves for you to get to where you want to be because if we're just aimlessly showing up, we're never going to have a strategic play. Like
Yeah.
you're never going to be able to do that. And like for example, I had a call earlier today and the person didn't like we missed the call 2 times in a row. And I was like, oh, like, but I never took it seriously. That it was like, oh my God, I can't believe they missed the call. Because what ended up happening was the link I kept giving them, they weren't receiving the email, so they weren't accepting it. So, because I knew the person, I was like, okay, like it is what it is. But there's so many people who would have been like, I'm not doing that. And then I ended up talking to them, and we have like a cool opportunity that might come up. But you start to realize, like, you gotta like you can't be so hard on everyone. You can't be so hard on people. Like you gotta realize that everyone's got their own thing and it's how do you support these people and how do you help them? And the thing I really enjoyed was you going, how many people do you think this guy's helped? He built like 10,000 franchises of just accounting for like it's insane. And you start to realize how many clients they had. And my innate thing, like when I really think about it, it's like, oh, there was a financial transaction there. He took their money. Maybe they didn't have success. Maybe something happened. But you're absolutely wrong because every single time the franchise is successful and it goes well, people are always like, I really appreciate him for creating that system. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and you
And
don't realize
one
that. Yeah.
one of the things that you pointed out, and I wanted to emphasize, is so I love that I mentioned like 3 or 4 times that had the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. Well, I think everyone should read it, and the reason I say is you talk about judging people, maybe like not that person he thought he was kind of
Yeah.
being deceitful, etc. Well, that book kind of makes you realize, see from their point of view. So how do I know if maybe that person had a bad day, maybe they had a death in the family, maybe they have had the worst day possible? How do I know that I wouldn't react the same way if I was them? So how can, if I don't know that, how could I judge them? Maybe I didn't grow up in the family they didn't grow up, didn't grow up the struggles they had. How could I judge that person? Because I don't know that I wouldn't be any different if I was in that person's situation. That's why you should never judge anyone because you never know. How do you know if you weren't in their shoes, living in their life, their environment that I wouldn't think and be the same way. So
Yeah, and
that's one of the perspectives I learned from just education is like you should never judge anyone because you never know.
I I think that's so valuable because there's times in my life, I mean, literally it happened last week. Like I literally have judged people and then you get to know them and you're like, "Oh, they're completely different." Like there's this one friend of mine, Robbie. He does he's got tattoos all over him. He's a tattoo artist. He's got a leg like he's got an amputee leg and you're just like, dude, like his hair's all over the place, and you're like, this guy's crazy. Like I don't know. Like maybe I'm friends, maybe I'm not friends. This guy's the best guy. Like you get to know him, and he's just so down to earth, and he's so kind. And you just, but off his appearance, he's like, everyone judges me. And he's like, I know the way I've set up my life that that's going to happen. But that's also why I'm a tattoo artist. Like, he's like, I own a tattoo shop. Like, I'm a walking billboard. But you just
Yeah.
start to realize that you're absolutely right. The amount of people you've judged your best friend before they were your best friend. You've judged mentors before they were your mentor. You've judged everyone before you actually got to know them. So I think you're bringing up an amazing point about empathy and the ability to really feel what other people are feeling and understand that it's not always easy. And it's not always, they're not always thinking about you because most of the time they aren't thinking about you at all.
Yeah, and I think that's what really changed my perspective for me to be getting into business. Business has changed me completely on how because I was trying to, okay, I was learn the customers, but in turning that, I learned so much about people, how
Yeah,
why they do things, and what's their why, what drives them. I think it's so interesting to really see what people are passionate about, and people in general. I think are so fascinating.
absolutely. And why do you think what do you think most people forces people to do what they do? Like why do you think most people might choose a job or might choose entrepreneurship or choose franchising? Like because there's so many different ways to live. I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges nowadays is that we have too many options.
Maybe. I would say from an entrepreneur perspective, I'm not sure. I think it usually comes from maybe pain or an opportunity. Like, hey, I want this better for myself. Or
Yeah,
or the downside is like I don't have a choice. Like I have to do this. Like
yeah,
I need to provide for my family, etc. So that's why I think people like either choose entrepreneur is usually typically one of the two ways. But I think that's for everything. I think naturally we're reserved. We don't want to take chances. Like, hey, be
yes,
safe, be safe, be safe. But almost teaching yourself like my mind. That's why I have to say to myself, what's the worst possible scenario? Once I'm okay with that, I'm like, okay, I can move forward.
absolutely. And what do you think is the biggest upside that you've experienced from taking a risk? And it might be a risk of like even how you met John, like just going to dinner.
I mean, I think it's just being like you still want to be not reckless, but you still want to be calculated. Like
Yeah.
still just like I mean, I still think that's the best way to do is think that worst that scenario, and you're gonna miss 100%
Percent
of
of the
the
shots you
chances
did.
you don't take. So why not?
Absolutely.
Like everyone, if you look at Bill Gates, look at Elon, you look at all these people. Well, why they can't that be you? Like,
Yeah.
did you put in the work, learn every little day? And I think same thing with business, sports especially. Like I think everyone wants to compare each other to. I'm comparing myself to Jordan. It's naturally to compare yourself. Um, I even got to a place where like I don't like compare myself to anyone. I'm just trying to be the best version of me. I'm getting a little bit
Yes.
better every day. It doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. I'm just focusing on growing myself, getting better a little bit every day. And that's what should be everyone's mission is just a little bit better. Maybe it's just a tiny percentage. Maybe I just get to the gym today. Maybe I just um, be anything. I
I,
just get
I
a little bit better every day.
I think that's so important because there's so many of us that someone will say something that might be more empowering than you, and you're like, ah, dude, I that pisses me off. But that shouldn't because you should be focusing on what you can control and you should be focusing on your journey because that's the most important thing. So for you, I we got a few more questions left. What do you think about franchising versus building out your own business? Which do you think's a better avenue?
Okay.
Why? What do you
And
think about that?
I love this question. So I'm big into acquisitions at heart just because that is like my history and buying real estate. That's what I love to do. I love acquiring real estate and businesses. And one of the things I learned from being in the franchise world and especially buying mom and pops is there is so much to do and for a small business. You have to be CFO, CEO, COO, build the brand, build the marketing, but also execute. There's so much going on. And what, like, let's say if I was going to go buy a business, I have to buy a business. I have to find that CEO that can do all that stuff, grow that vision, grow that stuff. And it's easier for me to, hey, buy a franchise that you have support on the top end. They're building the brands, they build the processes, all the stuff that doesn't necessarily make money. And all I would have to do is have to go out and execute, looking for opportunities and execute. Now I see that as the big win of franchising is kind of limits like a lot of the stuff that you have to do from
Yeah,
starting from scratch. You can just go out and execute. And honestly, most successful people I know that own businesses are that are acquiring companies are people are buying franchises.
absolutely. I think the other big thing about the franchise model is that you're borrowing someone else. You're not even borrowing, but you're borrowing someone else's like story. So what I mean by that is anyone that's part of loyalty bands is borrowing John Hewitt's story. You know what I mean? Whenever you have a mentor or you're partner with someone, you're borrowing their story. So when you're able to borrow someone's story, it helps expedite things a little bit when you hear all the success and you're like, whoa, they've done that much. Like, I can trust them. I can work with them. I think
Well, I'm a I was a cost analyst for the government before I got into real estate. I used to do all the
yeah,
negotiation, not negotiation, pricing, etc. for all the aircraft carriers and submarines. So I love cost, but doing just the how much will it cost for me to build the entire back support? To me, how much money would I spend on the brands? Much money will I need to do all the stuff that that franchise has?
it's a
Versus how
lot.
much it is to me to acquire that franchise. And there's a natural progression. I could buy other territories around me. Maybe this my neighbor is growing his business and I can buy that business out and it already has an existing market. I just see that as it's such a great
It's a different
opportunity.
lens. Yeah, it's a different lens I didn't really think about.
Yeah, and even from a lot of the issues that small businesses face is they do try to have to do everything. They have to build the infrastructure, they have to build the standard operation procedure, they have to build the flow, they have to figure out the marketing plan, what's the branding, what do they have to do with this? But remember, this one person is still doing everything
Sales,
else.
everything. Yeah.
So that's my philosophy is like once I bought that once my mom and pop, I realized like I'm only doing two things from here on out, investing wise, and that's franchising and real estate.
Really.
Because real estate, obviously, I think it's the best investment. But if you go back to Robert Kiyosaki's teachings of the cash flow quadrant,
Yeah, of course.
employee,
Yeah.
self-employed, business owner, investor, um, I think you need, like my opinion, a business that you can really use to amplify to invest in their areas. It's hard to do the E to I, which I tried. It's hard.
Yeah. No,
So,
absolutely. It takes a good amount of time and it's not the easiest to set up. So, what do you think for you is going to be the big determinant if someone's successful? So, maybe someone's listening to this, you've had success in different arenas. What do you think it takes for someone to be successful?
my opinion myself, I don't think I'm successful. I think I have so far to go. I think I'm only getting started, but I think I've heard other people say, and I'm just going to emphasize what they're saying, and that's perseverance. And
Yeah.
that's basically how much, or even like the was the Rocky Balboa's how many times can you get hit and keep moving? I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that is the key. Because even from the gym or sports, etc., it's how much pain can you take and keep going? It's
Yeah.
just continue to grow a little bit every day and persevere. Because you never know what's can what's gonna happen. They can come out with new regulation that throw you off. Maybe you picked a bad partner. There's so many different scenarios where you have to be able to persevere and be able to handle stress.
Absolutely. A big one for me about success is I think defining success for whatever it is for you.
That's true.
Because there's so many of us that go, hey, it's got to be this, it's got to be this, it's got to be this. And in reality, it doesn't have to be anything. You could just be like, hey, success is me sitting at home with my family and watching TV at night.
Providing
Success to
for your
someone
family.
else
Yeah.
is making a million locations. Success to someone else is I travel to 100 different countries. Like, so I think it's so important for us to sit down and go, what is success to me? And how do I kind of step into this? How do I figure out who I want to be? But it was the same thing you were talking about, Tyler, where you're like, you got to learn who you are and what you like. And that's why I was honing in on that because I think it's so important. Because most of us just go, oh, this new job's paying me more. I'm going to go here. And it's like, no, like, I don't know that that's going to solve your problem.
Yeah.
I think you got to take inventory of what you have and how you feel. Um, so how was it for you to really rearrange your why? I know we talked about it a little bit, but I'm more not really like a little bit about you, but more centric. If someone's listening and they're like, "Hey, I love how Tyler has his why. I think it's empowering. How do I create a why for myself?"
I always envision like what it also depends what is your like why would you see like hey like say I envision my life and what it looks like in 5 years like hey
Okay.
this is what I want my life to look like this is my I mean, why? And even John talks about his mission statement is having fun, improving lives, anyone can steal it. I mean, I feel like I kind of stole it, but it's just I would just maybe have that conversation with yourself. What do you want? What do you enjoy? What makes you happy? I think even like you said, happiness is a choice. But I think anyone, at least for myself, let's get back to myself. For me, my only two things I really care about is hey, is my family taken care of? And honestly, that's my baseline. If that's good, I'm good. And because I don't need anything else. Like I don't need to go anywhere. I don't need to vacation. I was like, I just love the grind
Yeah,
aspect of it. It's like me just having fun and trying to change as many lives in the process.
absolutely.
And I want to be someone that my daughters can look up into as like, dang, my dad did this. He helped so many people. He was selfless. That's kind of maybe my how my daughters see me is probably my why.
That's awesome. How have your daughters impacted your life?
Um, I think my daughters impacted my life. You kind of learn what you're capable of from from good and bad because
Yeah,
it's like okay, you think you know what love is until you obviously had kids and you had no idea.
really.
Yeah. Once I had kids, I realized very quick what I would willing to do for them.
Oh man, that's awesome.
So, and I mean, I think having kids is I think it was pretty amazing. Like I've learned so much from my kids. I'm learning from kids. If you can learn from I learned from my daughter, you can learn from anyone. So
Well, they actually, this is another made up web statistic, but I think it's true. It was saying that the most learning actually happens with people that are 0 to 5, which would be children, or people that are like over the age of 80, because you get to learn from both sides of them. Because the best part about kids is like they're marketing machines because there's no way you have to sell a kid every single night. Like I've seen people go on and they're like, I can't get my kid to bed. Like this is a problem. Like, you know what I mean? So you start to learn these different skill sets through the children of like, hey, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, influence and all these different things. But you also learn how to like treat them and how to like how to get them to appreciate you instead of it being this blind thing. So I think it's super important.
yeah, and for me, it's like how do I like help like almost influence my kids to want to be the best version of themselves rather than like maybe like not necessarily authoritarian, like do because I say so, like really show them the why behind it as well. I might say
Why? Yeah, and it's building
Good because
character.
to say so as well, but
Yeah. Building the character
yeah,
that you want them to have, that you think are important attributes to have. But they might be their own people too. Everyone's their own person at some point.
yeah.
So, yeah, you
I
go.
just want my kids to be better than me. That's all I want.
I love that. So, Tyler, how can people learn about you? How can they learn about ledgers? Where can they find you?
Okay, well, you can go to learn about ledgers. You can go to www.ledgersusa.com, and you can learn everything about our our company, our mission. We're Ledgers USA on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook as well. You can learn more about me on kind of YouTube and Instagram with Tyler Wins, which is what AI told me to put as my handle. So you can look at me that way as well.
Awesome.
And we're
That
actually coming out with a podcast again here soon called it's called Making Winning Mandatory,
I
which
love it.
is basically not taking like no for an answer. What really makes people successful, like we mentioned on this podcast? How do you um, one of my best friends, he played for Wisconsin. When we played football together, he said he said, "Listen, we're not here to compete. We're here to dominate." And how do these people that are super successful, how do they approach situations to win? Like
Yeah.
like I said, the same process of being great at one thing, the same process of being great at everything. How do you do that? It's like thinking outside the box, and that's why I love sports because you can train as hard as you can for as long as you can and still lose.
Yeah.
That's why I like sports so much. And it's the same aspect in business. That's why you have to love the journey.
Yeah. Uh,
And if someone loves the process and you love the result, who's going to win?
yeah. The process.
Yeah.
The result doesn't go very far. The process will go much further.
So what about you, Jordan? What's your why?
What's my why?
What's your why?
Oh man, the podcast just keeps going. That was good. For me, it's I've had a couple different missions. I've had these different ones, but the one I keep coming back to is, and I don't know if this is it, but it's an inspiring, an exciting life to others of what is possible. So what I mean by that is it's me living this life where I'm able to do these things, but it's letting everyone know that it's possible. So you see these references of like you just said Elon Musk can do it or Jeff Bezos can do it or whatever it is, and it's their success. But it's us realizing that, wow, that person did that. That's incredible. It's possible. And it's just this token of inspiration. That's where I'm sitting at right now. I'm still a work in progress on it.
I mean, we're always a work in
Yeah.
progress. We're always just getting a little bit better.
Yeah,
And
there's
I
always
mean,
iterations.
even John says he's still learning. So if he's still learning, he's still learning. We're all still learning. So,
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
all right, no problem.